This is going to be a relatively short video, but it's kind of a transition video from using just functions in a main operation, which really doesn't happen that much in the real world, to having multiple files, in this case, a string utilities file. So let's take a quick back look here at what we had before here. We had a main function here with the main operations, and we had to put a prototype up here, and we had to put the function implementation down here to have it all in one. And what I have done is I have created another file that I have placed the string length, the getString. And what I have done here is I have created another file, and I've called it stringutils.c, and I've placed the function in here. Now, because of the way I've done this, there's going to be a couple of flaws in this, but I want to take a walk through each one of them as we work our way through here. We will go ahead and run the compiler on this here. And we've got a couple of problems. We've got the standard strlen undeclared and the null char undeclared. And we've seen that before in the previous video. It means that we're missing the header file that we need to have these put into. The studio.h or the stdio.h is needed here for the printf, but we didn't put the other one in here that calls for the standard constants. But the reason we didn't do that is because we don't need to. We can put those into the header file for the string utilities because we're really not using those string utilities here. So let's go to that other file, and what we will do here is we will go ahead and include the string utilities right there. Now this is necessary. Standard constants.h is needed for these items that are in this file. It's really not needed in the main file. So we're going to put this in here. But now we still have the other problem that we came up with here, and that is that we still have implicit declaration of the function that we created. Well, the problem with that is if we come back to this first file here, before we put this up here, we put the whole function up here for a while, then we put the prototype, but we're not putting it here. And we could put the prototype here. That would work, and then it would say, okay, I recognize that, move on. And when it links the files together, then it would know what the function does. The problem with that is every time you run this, you got to pick out all these functions and say, okay, I'm using this one this time and that one, and put them into your program. And the problem with that is it's a lot of extra work that you don't need to do. So what we need to do here then is we need to create a header file. Now in the header file, I will have the prototypes. So if I come back to this original file right here, and I simply say #include, and with double quotes, which means it's inside the same directory where I'm at. If I just do that now, then what I can do is come back to here, and this will be included. This is stringutils.h. And I've got the prototype in here, but there are a couple of other things that you haven't seen yet. Let's take a look at the header files. We know we need this specifically for the items that are in the stringutils.c file. But stdio is also going to need it because we're going to write one utility, at least one utility, that requires input and output. So we're going to put that in there. But last but not least, this is going to be your option. You have two choices. You are going to see later on in the upper videos that you can create your own Boolean. The C language does not recognize Boolean, but you can create your own with a typedef, as you will see. On the other hand, you can also use what's called stdbool.h, and that will pull in Booleans that look a lot like all the other Booleans you've ever used, although the keyword for it is BOOL, not Boolean. But other than that, that's usable, and we will use that in this particular one. So that's the header files that we had to include, but we also have a thing called preprocessor directives. Now the preprocessor directives are exactly what that says. Before the compiler jumps in and goes to work, it's going to look up these different things here, and it's going to go through and it's going to check out stuff like this #if_ndef. Here's how you read it as you might read it in English. If it's not defined this term, then go ahead and define it and follow all the way through to the end of the file. All right? But if it is defined, in other words, if it fails the not defined test, then it's going to skip all this stuff and go down to the pound and if. I always add on the string utils h. It's the same as these. This is a comment, not necessary, but it helps me continue to be reminded about which one I'm in here. But now what this will do is this will keep string utils.h from being compiled more than once. If you think about it, string utils.h is going to be included into the main file. We did that, but it's also going to be included in the string utils.c file. So at least two places it's going to want to compile it twice. And in some places, because the string utils is a very popular tool set, is going to be used in multiple files, and you don't want this to keep trying to recompile the header file. So all header files need to have this. This name right here doesn't matter. This is kind of a standard here for the name of it, but it really doesn't matter. It just has to be the same here as it is here. And then you have the pound and if at the end. So this is the whole package for an H file. This is going to get a lot more complicated as we go along, but this is the start right now. And in fact, we will have the prototypes in here. Now coming back to the command line window, we can pull up this operation for GCC. And note that here we had to do the string utils.c, the phase5.c, the -o, all this kind of stuff. That's not so bad for a couple of files. But when you get into multiple files, as you will as you're going through the continued videos after this one, you are going to want to use a makefile. So let's take a look at a makefile here. This is a makefile, and this is a more complete makefile than the one you saw previously. This is going to have compile flags, which actually just tell the file to compile from source code to object code, but not actually create a program. And there's going to be the linking operations, which will take those object files and turn them into a program. So starting from the bottom to the top, we want to, a result is going to be string utils.o, an object file. The dependencies will be string utils.c and string utils.h, and the compiling operation itself will include string utils.c. The same goes right here. Phase5.o, the object file, is the desired goal. Dependencies are the phase5.c file, but also happens to be using string utils.h. And then we compile the actual phase5.c. Now, again, these are converted from the code, the text code, the source code that you wrote into object files, but they're simply separate object files that don't really do anything. What we need to do is turn them into a program, so we're going to link them. And this is where we're going to use L flags here. We're going to link this together with the object file for phase5.o, the object file for string utils.o, a name, phase5, and then also the result we're going to get out of that. So this is a makefile here. The rest of the makefile here is the ability to clean it. We will remove the star.o's so they don't clutter up your files here when they're not needed. And it'll also remove the actual program, phase5. So you can clean it and you can start over when needed. Let's take a look at how that works. We have a makefile. Now the way we do this is we type make here, then -f, which means use this particular file, and then our prog5_mf. We punch that up, and it's up to date. Well, if it's up to date and I really don't trust that, then what I can do here is I can say, all right, let's clean it. Now it cleans it, removed all the object files and the program. And now when I come back and do this again, I will see all the files running. The makefile is your friend as your file numbers begin to grow. This is going to wrap up this video. We have now accomplished a couple of things. We have a string utils file now that we're going to fill out quite a bit in the next video, but we have a separated one, and you've now seen how you will have a separate file and how to compile files together so that you can use different files and keep things modular, because all our string utilities will be in one file here. We can use them when we need them, but if we don't need them, we just leave them alone. We don't put them into our program, and it keeps it simpler. That's what modularity is all about. So we have got quite a bit done this time, but in the next one, we'll multiply it by several different functions. We'll close out this video at this point.